Hello, Spokane. Phil Tyler.
Meg Demand.
And we are here opening up our living room to you to share with you via your living room what it is to be a couple,
A biracial couple.
an interracial couple in Spokane. Because oftentimes we get those questions asked to one of us or the other, what it's like. How does he feel? How does she feel? And we thought, well, let's have an honest conversation about that.
And I feel like I was getting a lot of questions. So I wanted to share with some other people, what it's like when people come up to me and ask. And I do feel like we're a safe zone for some people who they can ask us, what's it like to be biracial? Or sometimes people don't understand that there is a lot that comes with being a biracial couple in Spokane. And a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't realize that. And so I brought this up to Philip to see if we could kind of do some kind of sharing session from our own home, because we have such amazing conversations at home. I feel like I have my own personal racial consultant, which is good in some ways and bad in some ways, because I'm the only one that gets, or people who are in biracial relationships get to have those conversations. And I just wanted to share that with people.
Yeah, I think in order for us to really begin this conversation with you, we've got to go back. And let me preface it by saying this. To me, I don't believe in safe zones or safe spaces. I believe in human interaction, right? So if you say something to me or to us as a couple and we deem it to be offensive, I'm going to let you know that. I'm not going to berate you or beat you about your head about the conversation or the comment, but I want you to understand how it impacts us individually and as a couple.
Yeah, I think that's where we're just getting with this, because I feel like so much of the conversation these days is me against you, you against me. You say something, if I said something racial out in the public, it would be blasted, and literally lives have been ended over certain comments that just absolutely ruin people in the press. So I just wanted people to be able to hear our conversations.
Yeah.
And figure out,
experience life through our eyes, through our lens.
Yeah.
So we can share that with you. So let's go back. We really started this conversation. It didn't start with the society being woke. It didn't start with the newfound or the definition of implicit bias. It was born out of us experiencing life as an interracial couple. And I'll take you back. We were traveling. We used to have our own business. Meg still does. Where we do communication sessions for different size companies, groups of people, etc. And we were traveling to one event together, and Meg had forgotten her nylons. And we were going to present for this executive team, and she forgot her nylons. She was dressed in a skirt or a dress, I don't recall the outfit. It was stunningly sharp, regardless of what it looked like. We know that for a fact. But let me take us back. But the point is, she said, well, I'll just grab a nylons from the front desk at our hotel.
Because you know how normally hotels, they have this little card and they say, if you've forgotten your toothbrush or something. And so I just called down to the front desk and I asked them if they had any hose available, pantyhose available.
And of course they did. And they were in nude color. Now, nude to our audience that may look like Meg out there in Spokane might be an innocuous term. But to the audience that look like Phil Tyler, nude does not have the same complexion as it does for Phil, as it does for Meg. And now the hotel wasn't doing this to be biased by nature. It is what has been established in the nation. Because I even, if I had forgot my comb, which I don't comb my hair any longer, you might have known, right? But when I did have hair, the little comb pack they gave out was this little 3-inch
this
black
conversation
comb,
went
right?
from nylons to a comb that came up, and so we
To
just
Band-Aids.
started talking about multiple things. Yeah, pantyhose, a comb, because a comb that works in my hair not work in his hair, a Band-Aid, and this was the one that really got me, because I didn't realize at all the color of Band-Aids are meant to match white people's skin, and so
Closely.
I wish I would have brought a Band-Aid. Maybe later we'll put a Band-Aid on you. Sure. And see how it looks.
Yeah.
It looks very different on Philip's skin versus my skin. And then he started, comparing it to not just because it's sometimes hard for a female to kind of think, but when you said, what if one of my sisters would have ordered this, or one of my mother, if she was with us and she needed a comb for her hair, what would they have brought her? And I just sat back and I was like, oh my goodness, that is so true.
Yeah.
So
that was the genesis of our conversation, and obviously it continued on through the course of our time.
Recently there was a conversation. I had a friend of mine, and there's been a lot of racial conversations going on.
When you say racial, what does that mean?
Well,
I don't think that they know. I mean,
well, to me, like questions about race, like for instance,
overtly or covertly?
Covertly.
Okay.
Well, in no ill will, but some people, like recently I had somebody ask me if we were talking about the whole Black versus African American, what does your husband prefer to be called? And so I brought this up to you, and you said, well, I like to be called Phil Tyler. And I thought, oh, I missed
or for
the
that
boat.
particular person, Mr. Tyler.
I missed the boat on that one for that person, but it's true, and people have those conversations because, and you've always told me too, I don't speak for every Black person out there.
No one does. No one does.
What do you prefer to be called? And my thing, and the more I have interacted with people, I'm going to slip and I'm going to fall and I'm going to say,
or you're simply going to say their name. Yeah. Right? We had this conversation, and it was funny because I had this conversation at Gonzaga University too, right? This inclusive university. And I remember having this discussion about, is it African American, Black American, etc. And what I said to the individual that was giving this discussion was, we have been the only race in society who has been labeled, which is why we won't use labels in our conversations when we have this video blog. But we've been the only race that's been labeled by others other than ourselves, right? We were Africans, wild men, slaves, niggers, Negroes, colored people, colored Americans, Afro-Americans, African Americans. But we always have been Black people. And there's nothing wrong with that, because if I walk into a room and I'm looking for Jim, and the only descriptor I have of Jim is he's a Black male, that's okay. In a room of 6 white men and 1 Black man, I'll know that's Jim.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's nothing offensive to that conversation. So when she asked me to comment about that person, my first thought was, does she ask that to other wives about their husband? Do they prefer to be called white or Caucasian or European American?
Yeah, it's weird because we're not, when you're white, you're just white, or I don't know if we do. Here's my other one that I get too that I wanted to share with people is a lot of people come up to me and say, your husband, he's so intellectual, he speaks so well.
The well-spoken Black man.
Yeah.
Yes,
he's so well-spoken. Yes. And Katara gets this a lot too, and I heard her say it too. It's not that I speak well. Why would it be pointed out that you or Katara are more well-spoken than anybody else? Yeah. So, and not to be offensive to anybody who's asked me that, because I still want to be able to have conversations like this, but how does that make me feel when somebody says your husband? Because I have a girlfriend who's married to a dentist, and I don't think that anyone would go up to her and say, your husband is so well spoken, and he's
got great teeth,
and he's white. Yeah. So it's
but the question is a good question though. How does it make you feel when other white people come to you and say, hey, your husband's well spoken? Because I can tell you how it makes Phil Tyler feel.
Well, I'll just really quick jump in and just say, how does it make me feel? It makes me feel like, why wouldn't he be well-spoken? Yeah. I mean, very quickly, it just kind of pulls me back. It's that simple. Like, why wouldn't he be? And why are you asking this? And this gets into what people now call implicit bias.
Sure.
That's implicit bias. When you're telling me that it's so amazing that my husband speaks well, that's implicit bias. And there's so many trainings and all that kind of stuff right now going on with implicit bias and people defining it every which way, but and we have it. I mean, it's just there. It
And-
is just there, and that's okay. I mean,
Well,
but
it's
to
not
a point,
okay,
it's not.
right? Because
at some
when
point
you
have
asked
to be
it-
like, oh,
when
yeah,
you asked the
sorry,
question,
let you go.
oh, thank you.
Sorry.
When you ask the question, how does it make me feel when someone comes to you? I rarely anymore get someone to come up to me and say, wow, you're so well spoken. Because when I do get that, I ask them, what does that mean? And why would you assume I was otherwise?
Yeah.
Right? And do you ask it to other people that don't look like Phil Tyler? And if you do, again, there's some inherent built-in bias
'Cause
that
you know what it means.
well, I do know what it means.
Don't speak.
I know that the 44th president of the United States was a black man. He spoke very well.
Yeah. And that gets pointed out.
Right?
too,
So the idea that you have a husband who is black who also speaks well is biased in and of itself.
Yeah. And just say what it is. I mean, and it's okay to be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe, oh, that is me saying that. And then it's kind of like, well, people always, when I say something like that to them, like, I have a lot of black friends. Even if you have a lot of black friends, I'm pretty sure you don't know exactly what the black experience is.
Well, I think you made a good point, because when someone says to me, I have a lot of black friends, well, a lot is a nebulous term. Does a lot mean more than one? Or does a lot mean more than 10? Or does a lot mean simply your coworker who happens to be a black man
Or
that you
peer.
never invite to your home,
Yeah.
or you never have any other interactions except save work? What does a lot mean when we hear that?
What does
when
friend,
people say that?
What does friend mean? Do you get to have these conversations? Do you get to mess up? Do you get to,
Sure.
or do you just simply go through your day and